guys, it's Tanya from Roofing University, and tonight we're here with Vince from MetStar and Back Group, and he's going to go over the history of clay tiles with us tonight. A little bit of history for roofers out there.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Nice to see you again.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you for coming out. So you want to talk about clay tiles, how they started?
We are going to talk about them. This is old, and this is from Greece, right?
That's an old, from ancient Greece. It's over 1,000 years old, and it's a terracotta tile, handmade.
That's incredible.
So, you got to go back thousands of years to understand where this came from. There was a lot of different ways of roofing back in the day. Stone was always the best. Started with cavemen, and later on when they got into the monoliths, they had dolmens where you had stone roofs and everything, like the Flintstones, something like that, Those would last. They've lasted. There are some that have lasted over 10,000 years.
That's incredible.
When man started trying to recreate, getting away from using branches and leaves to do a thatch roof, they want something that lasted longer, they came up with clay. They were already doing pottery with it, and they were probably sitting in the mud and saying, why are we getting wet? And they're playing with the clay, and they notice when you let it dry in the sun, it hardens like a rock, and it protects you. So these kind of clay tiles were the first lifetime roofing systems that were man-made, that were brought to the world. And these were literally made by hand. You literally take mud and you played with it, you shaped it a certain way.
Just mud, or were there there's obviously other ingredients in this?
To get better, yeah, but it's clay. You can basically take clay. When you're digging in the ground and you hit a patch of clay, if you can clean that clay up, you get something like that. Actually, not too cleaned up. With time, we've evolved. Like in Canada, these kind of clay roofs would not last 3 years because they're very porous. They absorb humidity, and the freeze thaw just cracks it open. And we've had people try to put clay tiles up. Doesn't work. Concrete tiles have worked. There is some clay, so that's evolved. This is like, we're talking about 10,000-year-old technology. I know some people say, well, civilization only existed 5,000 years ago, but Stonehenge and Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, they're discovering they're going back further.
Yeah.
So for thousands of years, this was the best technology. Then
and they didn't have the winters in Greece to
That's right, in
them.
Greece and in the areas where, Mesopotamia, Mediterranean, that's where civilization flourished because the weather permitted it. But then the northern, like this is a German clay tile that's been around for a while. And this is the same thing. It's clay, but it's a more refined clay. It's a better clay. The mixture is better. Much more dense. If you see the weight of this one,
it is. That's like
compared to this one.
4 times the weight.
Yeah. So it's much more compressed, and they have porcelain on it. So something like this, you can put it in Canada, in North America, but it's very expensive.
And how old are these?
These have been around Ludovici, I think they're called, and probably about 100 years, maybe even more. But it's newer technology, and you can go back to the Roman times when they started glazing this stuff, but it was usually this kind of clay. And of course, we're going back many thousands of years. They did come up with nicer designs than this. This one's very rough. But people are looking for lifetime protection. Now, what we've developed is a clay-looking tile, but it's made out of steel. Steel is basically rock. So we're going back to the rock that we used in our caves. We made man-made clay that looks and feels like a rock. Now we've taken rock, crushed it, and into metal. And metal is something that's really taking over North America. Now,
it is,
in residential roofing, we've been planning this for 25, 30 years, so we're not surprised that it's becoming so popular. But metal was always around. Even the time of clay, during the Bronze Age, we had metal, but you couldn't use it for roofing. It was way too expensive. Because they didn't have, there was no industrial revolution, so you had to take a piece of tin or copper, and just hammer it till you had a sheet, an even sheet finally. But there are lots of roofs that are made out of lead, like in Turkey, there's Hagia Sophia. It's a church. Yeah, it's a metal, it was one of the first metal roofs. I think it's over 2,000 years old.
Oh, that's incredible.
Maybe 1,000. It's between 1,000 and 2,000 years old, and it's still standing. The Notre Dame Cathedral, up until last year, it's too bad, but hopefully they'll put lead again. It'll last hundreds of
They
years.
said they
if
were
not
gonna
thousands.
hopefully restore it to
That would
as
be
close
wonderful.
to the original as they
Yeah,
can
I
get.
actually got
so-
to visit that roof before.
Oh, did you
Yeah.
really? That's
And it was
awesome.
all hand pounded and
Really?
really something. Yeah.
That's beautiful. That's
And people even
gorgeous.
lead is so soft that people actually carved their initials
Oh,
onto
really?
the roof.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's cool.
yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing tonight. I really, really appreciate it. So that
Thank
was
you.
the history of roofing, all the way back from ancient Greece, all the way up to when we started with metal. And we will see you guys next time. Thank you so much. Bye, guys.
Hey, Tahoe!